angels. Since it is Heart Week, I'm going to give you a little backstory of my heart journey. As you can tell, you can't see. I have a scar right here. I've had 3 open heart surgeries before I was 6 years old. My journey starts at 3 months. When I would cough, I would start to pass out. This kept going, and so my parents got a little worried about it, and so they took me into the doctor. And I back up a little bit. I live in the Central Valley in California. I'm 52 years old, and this happened in 1969. So, yeah, not much way of innovation and things you can do for sick children back then. So they take me into the doctor. My mom is explaining what is going on. The doctor says, I think I know what's wrong with her, but there's nothing we can do here for her. There is a team of doctors that come through the valley every couple of months, but she probably won't make it. But I have a friend of mine that I went to medical school with that practices in Oakland. Let me give him a call and see what I can do. So they made the calls. We went up there, and sure enough, there is something wrong. My dad had just started a new job, full benefits, but they're not thinking that the benefits are. He can receive any of his benefits yet because he hasn't been on the job that long. They are also basically still newly married. They were married in 68, and I was born in 69. So, relatively, 11. They've been married 11 months, and so they have all this going on, and now they have this sick child. So I go in for surgery. The only thing that they could do at the time was put what they called a band around my heart. That I was diagnosed with VSD, which is ventricular septal defect. Basically, in layman's terms, it's where you are born with 3 chambers to your heart instead of 4, and there's 2 upper chambers, and then you don't have 2 lower chambers. I just had one big chamber where the blood was just gushing through, and so I wasn't getting enough oxygenated blood pumping through my heart. So they did that repair, or that little band-aid. Told my parents that was the best they could do. There was something coming down the pike. They just didn't know when it was coming. They knew it would probably be another couple years. So basically, they sent me home with just prayers, and hopefully I was strong enough and stubborn enough to fight, because that's basically, it was in my hands now, and in God's hands. And thankfully, both of us are stubborn. And when I was about 5 years old, 4 or 5, I had something did come down the pipe. It was called a Teflon patch. Now, years later, like last year, I was just Googling on the internet. I wanted to see if my doctor was still alive, or if there was anything I could find on him, Dr. Higashino. And there was. And I found an article and some research papers and case studies. He was on the team that developed and invented the Teflon patch. This patch had been in test and studies since the mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s. So when they told my parents that there was something coming down the pipe, they just didn't know when. That was my doctor saying, I have something, but I can't really tell you what it is, but I got something. So they placed a patch where my wall should have been and basically hope for the best, because all this was still experimental. This was not, this is the best they had at the time. And so we went home, and when I turned 6, so 1975, I started having night terrors. Nothing could console me. So my mom and dad called the doctor up in Oakland and told him what was going on. He said to bring me back up and they would check it out. Sure enough, there was something wrong. The Teflon patch had separated from my heart. And so that was my body and me saying there was something wrong with me. I'm hurting. There's something wrong. I am still that way. I can still tell when something's wrong with me. And so they did the surgery to repair it. They replaced the patch. And when I got out of surgery, hold on, I am not comfortable here. Excuse the mess back there. I am in the midst of rearranging my room and cleaning, so I've got piles of stuff all over my room. But so when I got out of surgery and I was in the ICU or CCU, I was not the happiest person to be around. I was rude, I was nasty, I was saying things that probably a 6-year-old should never ever say or know how to say. Luckily there was a nurse who just started. She came over from Stanford, and at first I didn't know if I could talk because I wasn't talking to anybody. And so when I did start talking, they probably were wondering, why were we even worried about her? Because now she's just being rude and mean. So the nurse, her name was Marnie, asked my mom and dad if I had any siblings, and my mom and dad said yes. She has a sister. Why? And she said because she keeps asking for her sissy. So they said, is she here with you? And they go, no, she's back home in Modesto. She said, it's in the middle of the night right now, so, and I'm here until 6 or 7 in the morning. So go and get her, bring her back, and try to bring her back before I leave. I get off my shift. And we'll see if there's any change in her. And so they brought my sister back the next day. They left us alone, and we just talked and we hugged and we laughed. Now, mind you, I only have one sibling. She's it. This is also the same child that my mother told me a couple days ago that I would put in a steamer trunk and close the lid on her. and lock the latches. Never the main lock, because we never had the key, and you couldn't really, I don't think you could really lock it, but my mom was always afraid after that incident. So the main lock got busted, so we couldn't do that. But anyway, so they figured out it pretty quick that it was the adults that I was ticked off at. The adults hurt me. My parents left me, so I had no use for the adults in my life. I was mad, and that was my way of saying, leave me alone. So the other thing, I was in with adults recovering, and Marnie said, she does not need to be here. There's nothing wrong with her. She's recovering. She can recover anywhere in this hospital. She does not need to be here. This place is going to make her sick. There's nothing wrong. She physically does not need to be here. So they put me in with the other children. They continued to bring my sister up. There was a playroom at the end of the hall. And so we would go in there and we would play and just have a great time. Well, the head nurse found out about this and was not so happy. And so that was the end of that. So they decided to bring in a roommate for me by the name of Tuffy. And this story has nothing to do with, Tuffy has nothing to do with my CHD, but it's a little bit of a comic relief, so I'm going to add it. Tuffy was a little black boy, cute little black boy, so they added him to my room, and we had this huge room all to ourselves, and our beds were like, I like to call them little mini jail cells, because that's what they look like. They looked like cages that you would see in a zoo. They were like cages on wheels is what they were. They didn't have the lid at the time. Well, they didn't. For about a minute, they didn't have them for us. I don't know how we did this. And so at night, when everybody was home and not really paying attention, and the night nurse, there wasn't that many night nurses, and the ones that we did have, we didn't like, especially this particular one. So we would just get out. I don't know how we managed it. We would get out and we would roam the halls and we would go visit the other children. And just, I don't know, we got bored. I don't know. So we were little escape artists. So this little black boy and this Mexican Cherokee Indian little girl, were little hellions, to put it mildly. So one night, his mom's there. She's passed out on the chair. Like I said, I don't know how we got out of these cages. I have no idea how. And I don't even remember how old Tuffy was. He's probably 6 or 5. He was either my age or younger. I know he wasn't older than me. So he was probably my age or a little younger than me. So we get out of our beds, and on the nightstand, because we shared a nightstand, there was a bottle of baby powder, and at the time it was made out of talcum powder, so nice, shiny, slick. We decided to dump the whole bottle of baby powder all over our hospital room. Climbed back into our beds. I don't know if we walked the halls before we dumped the powder, or we just decided we were dumping the powder. So we dumped the baby powder. We climbed back in our beds, and this whole time, Her mom is passed out, nothing. Not waking up, nothing's happening. Night nurse comes in, the one we don't like. Nurse Ratchet. I'm going to call her. She comes in and slips on her ass. She starts, screaming, yelling, whatever she does. Wakes up Tuffy's mom. Tuffy's mom is oblivious to everything. We're back in our beds. We're like asleep, like we're pretending we're asleep, and we pretend like we just woke up, like whatever. Wanting to know what happened. His mom's like, I don't know, I was asleep. That was the last of our midnight escape, because they put the lid. They put the lid on us. They put the kibosh on that one real quick. So, yeah. One of these visits, though, it was the day that I was gonna get my bandages off, and I think Tuffy, they even separated us in the rooms because the room was so big. So I was like on one end of the room, and Tuffy was on the opposite. So we couldn't even, like, no. They were like, okay, well, there's no room for you guys anywhere, so we can't like put you in another room, separate you guys that way. So we're gonna separate you guys this way. Mean. So, my dad comes in, and they asked the doctors if they could take the bandages off me. And the doctor said, yes, you're not going to hurt her. Yeah. So my dad goes to take the bandages off. This girl wasn't having it. I yelled. I screamed. I basically told my dad off and said, nobody is touching me but my doctors. Yeah. This girl had her final say. Nobody is touching me. Nobody's taking off my bandages. You put me here. You hurt me. You allowed them to hurt me. And remind you, I'm 6 years old. I have no idea why I'm in the hospital, why there's tubes, why I have tubes in my arms, why there's a bandage on my chest. All I know is my chest hurts. You put me in here. You made them do it. I don't want to talk to you. Oh, and by the way, you're not taking my bandages off either. You're not touching me. So my dad left, and my doctors wound up taking off my bandages. So, every 6 months, I was supposed to go and see the doctor, just so he would make the 2-hour trek to Oakland, just to make sure everything was okay, there wasn't anything going on. And mind you, the exam rooms have these curtains. They, like an ER, it's like there's no privacy. People, I don't even know why they have them. They have them there. So my mom and dad are waiting for Dr. Agostino to see me. And there's these other moms and dads there, and they're hearing this yelling, and they're hearing the kids screaming, and they're hearing my doctor yelling and screaming at the parents. And then my parents were just like, oh my God, what is he gonna say to us? And like, she's not eating, she's not. So they were not. So Dr. Agostino comes in, and he said, oh, I'm sorry that you had to hear that. And they're like, what's going on? Are the kids, because they would see the children, and they were just like really skinny, and just like, they just looked very sick. And my doctor said, there's nothing wrong with these kids. And my mom and dad were like, but they look like they're about to die, but there's nothing wrong. Their issue is their parents treating them like they're invalids and that they're made out of glass. He said, I'm going to tell you something, and this is the last time first and only time I'm going to tell you this. If I catch you, if I see you, if I hear that you are treating this child like she's an invalid, what you hear from me to the other parents is what you're going to get from me. She is not made out of glass. You need to let her figure out what she can and cannot do. Her heart's going to let her know what she can and cannot do. So you let her figure that out. You let her figure out what her limitations are going to be. And the only way she's going to learn that is if she's allowed to do whatever she wants to do. Don't put limitations on her. Don't treat her like she's sick. Don't carry her like she's a baby. She's not. You treat her like there's nothing wrong with her. And she's going to grow up healthy, independent. Yes, she has a heart condition. But she will learn as she gets older what those limitations are going to be for her. And then they say, well, she's not eating. Or she's eating very little. And, when we have breakfast, she doesn't want to eat breakfast. But then, like, an hour later, she wants to eat or whatever. And my mom, Dr. Agostino said, fine. Let her eat an hour later. Her feeding schedule is not going to be ran by your feeding schedule. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, you guys want to go eat breakfast. She doesn't want to eat, but at 9 o'clock she wants to eat. You let her eat at 9 o'clock. And at 9 o'clock, she doesn't want the traditional breakfast. She wants chocolate cake or pudding. You give it to her. And my parents were like, what? That's unhealthy. He goes, we're not talking about healthy options right now. We're talking about getting something in her system. We will talk about healthy options on her diet later if it comes down to that. But right now, all we care about is getting her to eat anything. And I still live by that rule. I still don't run on a normal feeding clock. I don't. I still eat when I want to, when I'm hungry. Yeah, so basically I graze. And I've done that all my life. So I'm doing this so people who are just now learning they have a heart condition, or parents, especially for parents, it's mainly going out to parents who are now finding out their child has this heart condition. It could be a VSD like mine, or it could be something else. I want you guys to know it's not a death sentence. It could be. I mean, I'm not going to say it. I don't know what you're dealing with, but it doesn't have to be a death sentence. That they can have normal, long, productive lives. I'm 52 years old. I wasn't supposed to have children. I have an amazing child. I have a miracle baby. Could have had 2 miracle babies, but God decided that 1 miracle baby was enough for me. So, I do have my limitations, and I know my limitations. Yeah, and I didn't see a doctor. My last doctor's appointment when I was growing up was when I was 10, because I started having nightmares, and it just didn't want to go. They went, they checked, I was fine. The minute I knew I didn't have to go anymore, I didn't have the nightmares anymore. Because I just didn't want to be different. I tried everything I knew not to be different. I just did. And I felt isolated. I felt like growing up I couldn't play sports. I couldn't, competitive sports, I couldn't. I did find later on that I could dance. But within those boundaries, I knew, okay, when I start getting winded, getting a little tired, my dance teachers knew, okay, she, she can sit down, catch her breath, and then resume class. And that's what I did. So I learned how to do that. Yeah, I was able to do PE all through high school. When everybody had to run, I jogged, walked. I would jog a little bit. I got tired. I would walk. There were just certain things I wasn't able to do just because it was too taxing for me. And like the doctor said, I learned what my limitations were. My parents didn't put limitations on me. And I thank them for that. And I thank Dr. Higashino for telling them, do not do it. Because if you and this especially goes out to parents that has children that have CHD. Don't treat your children like they're sick. Oh, excuse me. Yes, they have a heart condition. Let them figure out unless your doctor has put restrictions on your child, let them discover their restrictions on their own. They're not kids don't want to hurt, so they will learn quick what they can and cannot do. Trust me. Last thing a kid wants is to get hurt. They don't like it. No kid likes to get hurt. An adult doesn't like to get hurt. So just let them, and if they don't want to eat when you want to eat, it's okay. Make sure you have lots of snacks around, especially when you're out on car rides. Always make sure that you have juices and water and snacks. Always have snacks. I still have snacks when I go on a long car ride, or I know within an hour I'm going to have to stop and get something to eat or something to drink. Still, to this day, my son loves it. He loves going on car rides with me because he knows food is going to be involved. Several times, food is going to be involved. Oh, sorry. So just, let them discover themselves. They're gonna know what they can and cannot do. Mental health, I will also stress this. Mental health does go hand in hand with CHD. Because I have CHD, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah. And I also have borderline personality disorder. I think. That one I think. I haven't been properly diagnosed yet. But I think I also have that too. And this all stems from my heart. Literally having to fight for the first 10 years of my life. I wasn't supposed to make it past 10 years old. A lot of us adults that were born in the 60s and earlier were not supposed to, even the 70s, were not supposed to make it past childhood. And here we are, and now they're scrambling like, oh, shit. Now we got a whole generation of adults that were born with CHD. Now what do we do? And it is really uncomfortable to go to a pediatric cardiologist, and I had to do that for a bit in San Francisco until they figured out that it was okay for me to go to an adult cardiologist. Thank gosh, because it is really uncomfortable sitting in an exam room and seeing teddy bears and pink carts and green clovers and yeah, it's yeah. And asking, wait a minute, you're 40 years old. Why are you seeing a pediatric cardiologist? I don't know. They're until they found a pediatric an adult cardiologist at UCSF is where I go to now in San Francisco, and he's amazing, Dr. Schiller. So if you are looking for a adult cardiologist, Dr. Schiller at UCSF, he's amazing, and tell him that Don Vickery sent you. If you get a referral, because you have to have a referral he's a specialist. Dr. May, also pediatric surgeon at UCSF Children's Hospital. So yeah, those are not May, Dr. Moore. Amazing team. I've been blessed. So I do get depressed. I do have anxiety. I have like I said, I have complex post-traumatic syndrome disorder. I cannot stand being in a hospital. Don't get me in a hospital room. Do not get me in a hospital room, because I literally start climbing the walls. Even if I'm just visiting someone. My dad passed away several years ago to cancer, and it was the hardest thing for me to stay in that room. And then my uncle, who passed away several years ago too. I've had a lot of deaths in the last several years, and every time I've had to go into the hospital room, it's been not good. I'm like sitting in a chair, and I'm not even visiting with them. I'm like staring out a window because I can't handle it. My legs start bouncing, and I start hyperventilating. It's a mess. I'm looking for the exit, and I can't get out of there fast enough. And this all stems from, being a child and being in and out of hospitals. So that's something to watch out for as an adult with CHD, and especially with children. I didn't know. I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my late 40s that I had all this going on. I literally thought I was crazy, that I knew something was wrong with me my entire life besides my heart condition. And I just never told anybody because I was afraid that I was going to be locked up. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know. And now I know. I do my research, and it's because of the CHD where all this stems from. Because as a child, you're pretty much isolated, because your whole life revolves around doctor visits and surgeries and, sitting on the sidelines because you can't play sports or you can't participate in PE activities. And the one thing I did do several years ago, I did climb the Mist Trail in Yosemite with my son. We were on a church camping trip, and they were going to go, and I was going to stay. Because I was like, hiking, that's probably not a good idea for me. And I asked the person who was also a doctor, happened to be a doctor, who also passed away several years ago to cancer. Amazing man. Asked him, because he did it all the time and climbed Half Dome and all this. Was it a hard hike? Never ask somebody who's an avid hiker if a hike is strenuous. Don't ask them, because they're going to tell you no. They're going to lie to you. The mist trail, I'm telling you right now, is strenuous because we went down it. We got a ride up to Glacier Point, and then hiked down. No, that was hard. And I did it. It took me I think it took us over 12 hours to do it. Everybody left us because we had a group of 20 or something, and they left us. It was me, my son, and the doctor. And yeah, and they were getting rid of it because it was dark. It was already, and I was like I was pushing those two, and the doctor's like, oh, don't worry about it, Dawn. We have we have lights, and I'm like, I'm not worried about being able to see. I used to live up in the mountains. I know there's things that come out at night that eat people, attack people. That's what I was worried about. And being at on granite, slippery steps, with depending on where you're at, had no rails. That's what I was worried about. I wasn't worried about seeing. It was about the creatures that come out at night. Yeah, so once in a lifetime trip. I'm so glad I did it. I have amazing memories of that trip. And I think I still have some pictures of it, but I have a wooden walking stick that I found, so I have that to remember that trip by. But other than that, I've been able to do pretty much anything I want, within reason. I do take care of myself. I have high cholesterol, so I take medication, and I take a baby aspirin every day, and I take medication for my anxiety, and I take my multivitamins, and I don't sleep. So insomnia is probably, if you have CHD, is probably going to be your best friend. Yeah, and just don't be afraid to tell your story, or your children's story, because there's a lot more of us out there than you realize, and we want to help, especially us adults that have been through it, that are, 40, I would say 30 years and up, who've been through all this. We're old hats. We're experts at it. So we can guide you through this. So you don't have to be alone. And yeah, just listen to your. If you have kids, listen to your kids, because they're gonna know their body. They're gonna be experts at it. Unfortunately, they're gonna know there's something going on with them. Don't poo-poo it. Don't say, "Oh, you're being dramatic," or what. If they're saying their chest hurts, you need to pay attention to that. Really pay attention to that, and get it seen. It may be just nothing, but it could be something. It could be a sign of something going on with them. My parents did that to me when I was growing up. After age 10, I would complain of chest pains, and I think they were scared. I think and they just ignored it and said they chalked it off. Oh, it's growing pains. It's growing pains. And when you have a child who has a heart condition, it's not growing pains. It could have been something serious. Luckily, it probably wasn't, but I don't know. I have a supravalvular stenosis of the aortic and valvular pulmonary arteries. So was that always there? Did that develop as a child, and because I didn't go see the doctor until I was pregnant with my child? They didn't even catch it then. So when did this develop? So please, 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 you know, this is Heart Month. Please, I beg of you guys, even if you have nothing wrong with your heart, if you have a chest pain, if you're feeling faint and dizzy and fatigued and shortness of breath, go check it out. For the love of God, go check it out. Because you never know. It's the number one killer of women. It's the number two killer of adults in this country. And it shouldn't even, as rich as this country is, that we shouldn't, heart disease should not be number two. Should not be the second killer. I think cancer is number one, but heart is right. COVID is probably number one right now, but not to make light of COVID. I have dear friends that had it, and it's nothing to laugh at. But if you do feel faint, if you do feel dizzy and lightheaded and shortness of breath, and you're a racing heart, heart palpitations, tightness in your chest, go call 911. Don't even risk driving or risk someone driving you. Call 911. Explain your symptoms, especially if you are a heart patient. Let them know. I have a history of cardiac issues. They will take that more. They'll take that more serious. So just, do it for yourself. Do it for your loved ones, because no one wants. You shouldn't. There shouldn't. So I hope this was not enjoyable, but you learned something from this. And if you are a parent of a child with CHD, or if you are an adult with CHD, just finding out, please hit the subscribe button somewhere here and subscribe to my channel and reach out to me and leave a comment. I will get back to you, and I will help you go through this journey, because no one should suffer through this alone, and you're not alone. We're all here for you guys. Love you.